Well, at the time I didn't know I was going to get double, but what happens when that runs out? Like, what will I'll need to earn money. So then I had a couple of days of really tuning into where am I now versus how I've lived my life so far. Do I trust the universe to provide for me, or is my income and my abundance in a paycheck from a company? And I could feel myself catching up from the gap of what I'd expanded to from what I was used to living. And it felt terrifying. But I checked in with myself and I would just really tune in, and I could feel the truth of like, oh, I am ready to trust the universe to provide for me. And whenever I would get that temptation to return to the feeling of terror or scared, I would just check in with myself again. And eventually I was like, I moved fully into what I'd expanded to, which is I ask for more freedom. I'm not in charge of how it shows up.
Welcome to the Delicious Alignment and the Art of Abundance podcast. We cover topics related to health, wealth, and happiness from a spiritual and metaphysical point of view. I'm your host, author, and intuitive coach, Rhonda Ryder, and I just wanted to let you guys know that I've been feeling the guidance to interview more channelers and people who have had NDEs, near-death experiences. So I am about to contact some folks who fit that criteria. Let me know what you think about that idea. Would you like to hear more of those kind of interviews as well? I guess I'm mixing it up a little bit, following those breadcrumbs. Don't you just love it when you begin to trust your guidance more and more? It feels so good. Okay, so about today's episode, I'm super excited to bring back author and personal transformation coach Reid Thompson to talk about his brand new book, The Unicorn Frequency. You might remember I interviewed Reid back in July regarding his 12-month experiment of fun, which resulted in his company offering him a retirement package that basically doubled his income and allowed him to kick off his new business and complete his book, The Unicorn Frequency: Unleash the Magic of More Money, More Freedom, and More Fun. I will post the link to this previous episode in the show notes so you can listen to that one as well if you like. Make sure to stay to the end to hear Reid's take on how to live like you're on vacation, even if you're working a full-time job. Yeah, there's a lot of good content in this episode. It's very meaty, if I do say so myself. So let's get started. Hello, Reid.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I am so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me back.
Yes, you're very welcome. You're welcome. I've been reading your book and I'm loving it. The Unicorn Frequency, and the tagline I love equally as much as the Unicorn Frequency is the title. Unleash the magic of more money, more freedom, and more fun. Who doesn't want more of that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
The last time I spoke with you, I think you had the idea for the book. I'm not sure if you had started writing it yet. So now your book is published. What's life like since writing the book and publishing the book?
I think last time we talked, I remember that I think the book was written and I was maybe doing a little bit of editing, but I didn't have a title yet. So it's a lot has happened since then. Let's see, life has been startling and fun. What surprises me is I spent 2 years writing the book as I lived my life, and I had a full-time job and traveling and was just kind of focused one step at a time. And I never really thought about what the stage would feel like. And it's kind of blowing my mind because people are messaging me every day, telling me how much the book has meant to them and what's standing out. And I never really thought about this phase. I just had my head down and was working. And this has been what Abraham Hicks calls surprise and delight every day in this new reality. So it's very fun.
That's
and
wonderful.
Satisfying.
Yes. I mean, even like almost 5 years since I wrote my book, and I'm still receiving messages from people. It's just like the book has a life of its own, and it's already happening for you. So that's really cool.
Thank you. I did work with a book mentor who kind of helped add some structure to each stage of the process, but there was freedom to postpone any stage if you were like I was busy traveling for 3.5 months and I would have some meetings with an editor and talk about the book, but it was pretty much on hold until I was home again. So I enjoyed that flexibility of when I focused on it. It didn't have to take 2 years. It certainly didn't take 2 years to write. It probably only took 90 days because we had focused blocks of writing time. And then editors would go through the book and do what the editors do and help you kind of with punctuation or even how smooth or how logical it flows to them as someone who's not close up to it. So to be in that stage for 2 years, approximately, maybe it wasn't even that long, it feels like a dream. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did this even happen? How do I have a book?
Yeah.
But I love that it was that simple and non-confrontational or non-dramatic, that it was just something I focused on one step at a time. It wasn't overwhelming. And here we are.
And just to remind listeners, if you haven't listened to the first interview I did with Reid, I'll post it in the show notes because that interview is the first part really of this story of how you did a 12-month experiment of fun. Actually, the episode is called a 12-month experiment of fun. And you focused on fun for 12 months. And then you had a desire for more freedom. And then you were offered a package from your corporate job as creative director of a Fortune 500 company to basically get paid double for doing nothing, for staying home. So you allowed this freedom with this money coming in.
Yeah.
An amazing story. So I highly recommend people listen to that as well. It's a wonderful addition to this story. So I know you talk about it in the book, but I'd love to ask you to share how the title came to you. Did you say, I think you said in the book it's came in a dream, or how was that? The unicorn frequency.
Yeah, there was a working title that I had that did come in a dream and an image of the front of the book. And I thought, wow. But as time went on, I think it was after our call, I had in a few days a meeting with the publisher to talk about what the title would be. And so that helped. Looking back, it gave me this focus, this desire to have a title or some title ideas to share with the publisher versus just talking to him about the fact that I don't have one or what does he think or any suggestions he might have. And so I meditated and I kind of asked the universe, like, I desire a title that thrills me. And I desire a book cover that thrills me. And so I started my meditation, and through the meditation, 4 phrases came to me and they're kind of combinations of each other. I wrote them down and I just remember looking at my list on my phone and I loved this idea of frequency because it's so much a part of our life and how we manifest and how we create. And we all are at a frequency. The title came through like the unicorn frequency. I love the combination of those 2 words because unicorn is so whimsical and sparkly and to me has very candy flavor connotations, but then frequency to me sounds more scientific and deep. And I loved, as a creative person and creative director, I loved the combination of those words and how they don't quite normally, you wouldn't normally put them together, and that it kind of creates a question of a story like, oh, well, what's this about? And I had been working specifically with this unicorn language, and I talk about this in my book, but whatever I find, like whatever helps us find our thrill, our truth. I call like our thrill is our truth, because when I would think about, well, what do I want? And so Gina, who's been on your show, and you just were advertising that she's coming out, whenever things would resonate with me and buzz when I would read it, I would really pay attention. And Gina messaged me, and she, within her message, she had this phrase of, if I had a magic wand and could have it exactly as I wanted it, what would I create? And I just thought, just like buzz, 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 like that kind of thing of like, ooh, that really gives me permission to think about what is my thrill. If someone handed me a magic wand It's right now. It's not like, okay, put this magic wand away, and when you think of some ideas, get it out. It felt more like if it was handed to me right now, I would want to take advantage of the opportunity, and I would need to start pointing my magic wand and like, what do I want? And so I could feel the thrill of kind of like an access to my thrill and my truth of like, well, what do I want? And when I would kind of start coming up with a list, it would start to grow. Like, well, let's see if I could point it right now. And things started to populate. And then when they do, like you can feel inside you, your energy is spikes when you recognize, oh, wow, I could feel my energy spike when I thought of this. Can I really have that? I know it thrills me. So the reason I use this example that Gina told me is there's multiple ways that we can find what thrills us. And I had been working with this unicorn language because so Liz, who you've had on your show as well, Liz Hayes, had texted me and said, I'm about to go to a meeting or an event, and I wonder how this will play out for me as a magical unicorn. And I thought, oh, wow. Like that was just like alarms going off. I love how it felt when I read that. And
Like
how
she was going to a meeting or you were going to?
She was going to a meeting, and
Yeah.
she shared like how she as a unicorn, how could this play out for her as a unicorn? And I thought, I am using that in my life, and I would work with it every day as my part of my meditation and my alignment. And I could just say, like, not only how does this day play out for me as a unicorn, but I could like how I could put it in different segments, and I could start to feel my thrill, just like that magic wand permission slip. So anyway, that had been something I'd been working with for probably 6 months, this idea of a unicorn. And I noticed when I would be in some of these Abraham seminars, I would get more information about why the unicorn language is helpful. Like it wasn't just when I came up with a title and how I'd been using it, but I'd get new information, like even recently. And I realized the power behind unicorn, like letting ourselves think of ourselves as a unicorn, is it releases what is, because Abraham Hicks talks a lot about don't keep looking at what is and putting your attention on what's already created. Start telling the story of what you want to create. And I realized that unicorn, how does this play out for me as a unicorn, was powerful because I was releasing what is and super free to come up with anything. It didn't have to be grounded in reality or what is currently going on. It could be not even something that humans might expect. Like, no, this is a unicorn and they get to ask for anything. Nothing applies to them. It's all magic. And so it just helped me kind of more accurately come up with my list of like, well, what would I want as a unicorn right now? And I could feel the thrill of the things that I did come up with. And then I realized that's my truth, because I could feel the most energy in me, in my body, when I would work with that idea of me as a unicorn. But I find it equally powerful to think of a magic wand that I can have it exactly as I want it. Or there was another, again, like permission slip. Bashar talks about permission slips and letting ourselves have a way to release what is. So since I'd been working, long way of saying, since I'd been working with this unicorn, I call it equation for myself, it kind of flowed into my ideas for the title of the book. And I realized too the power of frequency, and that unicorn frequency is when you're really thinking big and you're really in your thrill and you have more energy and more power, because it's all about your frequency. And that felt like the highest frequency I could come up with is it's fun, it's free, it's magical, and it's my thrill. So that's what came through in my meditation. And then I could feel how excited I was about the title, because part of me was feeling not the pressure, but the desire that I wanted a really cool title or something that was cool to me. And I was so excited to share that title with my publisher. He loved it. It was imaginative and colorful to people. And so that's the origin story for my book title.
And as you were speaking, I was thinking it's a permission slip to not be reasonable or logical.
Unreasonable. And
unreasonable.
Yes. And I love that you brought that word up, reason. That's the thing. Because even when I would kind of start my little list as a divinely inspired human and this and that, like I was really making my best effort, but I could feel massive difference between thinking of myself as an enlightened being and truly cutting cords with reasonable or reality as a unicorn. And I noticed on the last cruise I went on, the Abraham cruise in the Caribbean, they introduced new language that is totally the same vibe. And they said audacious. And I loved that because when you're being audacious, you're being unreasonably optimistic and unreasonably excited. And it's that lack of reason and the boldness of really letting yourself believe you can have it, know you can have it. And so, yeah, I think so. Audacious is a beautiful word that I love that they introduced because it just gives you more flavor in the same arena.
Speaking of Gina Mallison, who Reid was just referring to, I have a quick message for you. As most of you know, I use the Mallison method, a method she created in my coaching practice. I often refer to it as calibrations. I actually was in the first training group that Gina facilitated and was one of the first people to encourage her to teach this method because I wanted to learn it so badly. So not only has my life transformed by receiving calibrations myself, my clients have benefited from it as well. In fact, I've built a thriving coaching practice by making a difference in people's lives using the Mallison method. Maybe that's something you're interested in, starting your own coaching business, or maybe you'd simply like to learn this method for your own spiritual growth and well-being. Either way, I've got some wonderful news for you. Over the years, many of you have asked me how you can learn this method. Well, the time is now. It is happening. Gina has opened up enrollment for this next round of Mallison Method training. If you know you want to join, if you've been following me, following Gina, and you're one of the people I'm talking about that would like to learn this technique but have been waiting for the program to open, you can go to mallison.tv/Mallison Method Training, and it's open right now. And when you do, make sure to use my coupon code, which is my first name, Rhonda, RHONDA. This will enable you to receive $240 off the registration. If you would like to talk to me personally about the program, my experience, just chat, definitely contact me. I'm happy to answer any of your questions or even give you a free session so you can experience the Mallison method for yourself. Again, the website is mallison.tv/Mallison Method Training, and this link is also in the show notes. If you're on YouTube or the website or your phone, just scroll down and you should see the link. Alrighty then, now back to the interview. And you know, it's funny, as I'm also noticing, I don't know how long it was ago that I interviewed you, but I had this thought even before the interview earlier today, like I'm not the same person that I was when I interviewed you last. Because I remember we were talking about, like, I manifested some cushions for the outside chairs, and I was, and I was like, oh, I remember that interview so much, and that, oh my, how we're not even the same person as like 6 months ago.
Seriously. It's true. Even like from day to day, I've had people who are close to me, like mentors, like KT, who's in my book, was with me this weekend, and she could feel a difference in my point of attraction from when she was here with me to 2 days later. So it's pretty exciting that we are expansive, flowing energy.
Yes, so much, so much. One of the things I wanted to mention, talk to you about, one of the things I really love about the book is how you talk about your relationship with your inner being. And I know a lot of that started with KT. I mean, it didn't start with her, right? Because you've always had a relationship with your inner being, but it sounds like she's really good at facilitating that relationship. And I'm just curious because I love, talking to people's inner beings as well. I'm just wondering if you might share a little bit about how the session starts out. Does she just Well, first, let me ask you if that's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And just to give fair credit, so her name is KT. Is it Brady?
Yes, KT
Okay.
Brady.
Just to give her a shout out. So, how does she start, or what is that experience like working with her, where you get to connect with your inner being?
Yes, that's a good point because she is throughout my book because so much of that year of fun, it was explosive or exponentially progressive because I was having conversations with my inner being twice a week. And that the momentum of that was really what I would credit for the largest part of my transformation. I mean, it was a commitment to be in a higher frequency of fun, but it was also those sessions were happening. And just to back up a little bit for the listeners, I didn't know her until went on a cruise. It was my second cruise. And I write about this in the book, but she was sitting 2 or 3 rows in front of me, just the back of her head. And at the time, I didn't even question it, but I just knew I needed to know her and that she was different than anyone I'd ever met. What I love is I didn't even question that. How would I even know that? It just felt like the most clear,
Mm-hmm.
natural thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just the back of her head. But I could tell from watching her, she was different. And so I just organically thought I will introduce myself to her on a break. And then as I got to know her during that cruise, I found out, wait, you're a spiritual coach. And then when I found out that her gift is she doesn't, when you work with her, she doesn't have an itinerary or a curriculum that she thinks are with, like, these are wise paths. She literally sits down at the time of your call, focuses in and tunes in to you, your inner being, and then she calls you and it's recorded. And then when I pick up the phone, I am talking to my inner being.
Okay,
And
so she's channeling your inner being?
yes, she is
Oh,
exactly. And she's translating and it becomes the mouthpiece, just as Esther Hicks is translating Abraham.
yes.
You're hearing Abraham through Esther, but in KT's situation, she's not translating Abraham, she's translating you. And when I heard that she offers that, that was a hell yes. I'm like, I want to have a session at the earliest convenience. And so that's how it works. And I loved, like, as I was working with her, she reminded me, like, I know it seems like you're talking to me, but this is 100% coming from you. I don't remember what we talk about when we hang up because this was you coming through and I can just tune into it. And not just tune into it, but voice it. So what a fun, I mean, talk about my year of fun. To me, that was the highest fun. How could it not be? Is to have access to your inner being in those ways. And of course, we have access to our inner being always. We are our inner being, but humanly focused, it was a unique opportunity and it's been beautiful.
One of the things I love about the book is your communication with your inner being, and you tell lots and lots of stories about that. So it sounds to me like she helped you then get to know your inner being even more, where you can actually have a dialogue with your inner being, like you're sitting by the pool. It's like, well, inner being, what should I do next? And what about now? What about now? Whatever. Should I go to this dinner or should I? Because I do that all the time, and sometimes, but I don't necessarily, I don't go, hey, inner being. Like, I just kind of ask what is next, or what do I feel like? What would feel better? What would feel better now? I have 2 hour break. What would feel better now to do? But I like that of talking to your inner being.
It's pretty wild. And I found too that since I worked with her for a 6-month block, I learned early on that I wouldn't even know what questions to ask or have questions to ask. I just desired to expand. And so what I learned is I could just show up for the call unless I had something specific I wanted to talk about or beautiful thing that happened that I wanted more detail on, or I wanted to discuss, I would just ask in the call 90% of the time, what am I ready to hear next? Because, and I found that it would be a topic and I would think, oh, that's interesting. And I would be just, it would feel new and a stretch or expansive, but I was ready and I could work through any discomfort that might come up. Like, for example, when I was offered my retirement package, I love the idea of being free, but I had so many years in my belief systems about, well, I always earned money from a paycheck every 2 weeks. So it's fun to be paid. Well, at the time, I didn't know I was going to get double, but what happens when that runs out? Like, what will I'll need to earn money. And I realized, so then I had a couple of days of really tuning into where am I now versus how I've lived my life so far. Do I trust the universe to provide for me, or is my income and my abundance in a paycheck from a company? And I could feel myself catching up from the gap of what I'd expanded to from what I was used to living. And it felt terrifying. But I checked in with myself, like, so this isn't with a call in KT, but when I would be meditating between our calls, like we would meet twice a week, I would listen to the last recording of our call, and I would just really tune in, and I could feel the truth of like, oh, I am ready to trust the universe to provide for me. And whenever I would get that temptation to return to the feeling of terror or scared, I would just check in with myself again. And eventually I was like, I moved fully into what I'd expanded to, which is I asked for more freedom. I asked for money to be free. I'm not in charge of how it shows up. It is showing up. And I recognize the truth of what I've asked for in this form, and I'm going to say yes. But I didn't say yes from a place of fear. Like, I needed to catch up. So that's kind of an example where something new happened. I had my inner being to check in with through KT, and we could do this without KT. We can meditate and tune into our inner being and ask ourselves these questions. But since I was in the program with her, a one-on-one, of course I would share what was most important to me at the time. So that's kind of an example of how I would work through questions. And of course my inner being would bring these things up because they could feel my energy. I mean, because they are my energy. So they would say, hey, do you want this? Do you want to be retired? Yes or no? Like, I loved how my inner being could find the way to reach me. Of course, it was perfect always. And it just was invaluable. She was a cooperative component that I summoned because I wanted more clarity and more freedom. And she was a cooperative component and a path of least resistance for my journey.
I want to take a quick second to make sure you know about a few free gifts I have for you, including my Love Your Body, Love Your Life online course, which includes over 20 short videos based on my 5 steps to loving your body and making peace with food. There are other free goodies for you there as well when you go to deliciousalignment.com/resources. Now back to the interview. So how do you connect with your inner being now? Which, as you said, our inner being is us. We're not separate. It's just a way of communicating with our higher selves. You have the instruction guide, unicorn instructional guide, and you have some things there that people can do just as a guide to help them tap into this unicorn frequency. So I'd like to go over a few of those. And let's start with number 1, which is meditate every day and follow the ideas that present themselves to you. So tell me about your meditation practices, if you like.
Sure. When I first found Abraham Hicks, they introduced me. I started listening to the videos and I read the book, The Law of Attraction, and I found it through an Oprah Winfrey book recommendation. And they talked about meditation. So then I started working with the guided meditations because I felt like I don't know how to do this. I've never done it. And if there's going to be a guided meditation, I want that. So I did that for months and months and months. And then as I got used to that, I would find new forms. But for me today, meditating, I call it more like reaching for alignment. And I find whether it's meditating or being still and consciously tuning into myself and talking to myself about, well, what do I want today? What feels good for today? What do I want to ask the universe for today, or ask myself, really, my higher self? And I can just feel whatever the way in, I can feel that connection to source is at a high point and the energy spikes, and I can feel like, oh, contact made. And it's not that I wasn't happy before, but I can really feel from that focus and connection point, okay, contact made. I'm feeling like on top of the world and I'm ready to start my day. So I would say just tuning into yourself in whatever form. Sometimes I often do that just before I leave the house, and it can happen in seconds. And sometimes I set the timer for 25 minutes and I just keep reaching and thinking and feeling around for it until I find it. So that's the day-to-day practice. But often if I have something specifically I'm reaching for, a question or a desire, I will voice it. Like one of mine kind of recently was, I want to understand more the power of now. It's a common theme in so many teachers, Abraham Hicks, like you name it, Bashar. And so I thought, I am definitely checking in with myself moment by moment, but I feel like there's so much, I sense there's so much more to this concept of the magnitude of now, that I would, please show me, universe, some new details, some new dots connected that emphasizes the more that's available to me about this, how I can understand the power of now and the magnitude of now. And so that's just an example of whatever's at the forefront of my curiosity and my desire. And sure enough, I'll have a moment, and maybe hours later, and because I asked, when the answer shows up, even if it seems unrelated or not expected, there's always a recognition, because I asked, when the answer comes in, like, oh wait, holy smokes, this is part of the now. Like I can connect it back, and it's always an answer coming through that you asked for. So for me, meditation has evolved over time, and I call it now reaching for alignment. And it just is a checking in with myself, identifying. Sometimes it would be as simple as stating and really feeling three things. I know the goodness of me with no question. I am safe on all topics and in all ways. And I accept perfection of where I now stand. Those three things have really helped me cast a net to see if there's any kind of thread out there that needs to be realigned. And I think a lot of us have lived so much of our lives kind of thinking about the future or excited about the future. And so like for me, that last one about I accept the perfection of where I now stand, I can feel the shift of like, oh yeah, I don't need to know something new or know something more or wait for something new to understand. I don't need to wait for anything. Like right now where I stand, I am good to go, complete, on fire, with abundance, joy. And it really helps. I can feel the difference between those three things of how it kind of reaches the different parts of our human experience. Like the desire to be safe, to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I had to, yeah, right. Because it could be like, I want to feel safe about money. Mm-hmm. I want to feel safe about putting myself out there emotionally with a friend. And like, whatever it is, like, we just want to feel safe. And so tuning into that, I'm like, oh yeah, I of course have the right and am safe on everything, always, no matter what the topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, it's kind of like you just discover these new tools that you pay attention to and think, oh, I'm going to work with that because it feels really good and it aligns me.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not per se that you sit down and have a formal meditation every day. You're following your guidance, your inner guidance to what feels good. I mean, once in a while it is where you're a sit down meditation, but many
Yeah.
times it sounds like it's simply just tuning in and, like you said, connecting when you feel that connection. And it
Yep.
can happen very quickly when you take the time to just be still, get quiet.
Yeah. And I can feel it in my body, kind of in
Hmm.
my heart center. So I, I love that over the months, sometimes I can just close my eyes. And if I feel that wave of divine connection, like I know I'm aligned and it just can be that easy. And just to also be patient with yourself and love yourself wherever you are and feel your way through it.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Be patient with yourself. And what would you say to someone who would like to feel safer in this reality that we're living in?
Yeah, I think the moments I would notice feeling terror and not safe, I realized like with my retirement, when I first was presented with that idea, I think Abraham talks about sometimes this idea that's just in your mind, when it shows up in the real world, you can feel the gap and the difference of it and just be patient and let it yourself catch up. And so when I have those moments where I feel unsafe or terror about a topic, I feel like that's just the universe saying, oh, look, there's vibrational feedback that there's a topic that you desire to be aligned to, need some work to align to. So like one time I received a tax bill and it was laughable. And I thought I was covered with my taxes, and
You mean it
it,
was like a lot more than you thought it would be?
it was hilariously large. And I
Okay.
felt immediate terror. And I thought, oh, I must not feel safe about money. And so I let myself sense the terror or the surprise and the gulp, and then say, instead of being identifying with the freak out or the uncomfortableness, I just like, oh, let me shore myself up on this topic and just kind of observe it, honor the feedback you're getting, and think, oh, I need to align on this area. And I want to feel safe on all topics. So in a way, you can kind of let yourself off the hook and just say, oh, this is what's going on. This is just an invitation for me to clean up some energy on a topic that I didn't realize until this moment could use some addressing.
That's a great way to look at it. Yes, it's an opportunity. So if you feel this fear or scared, yeah, like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to raise my unicorn frequency, like, yeah, get in alignment. There's some more, for lack of a better word, work that I can do in this area on this topic. Yeah. One of the other things I wanted to ask you about in your book was your story about your mom, a meditation that you had, and then it led you. I think KT had asked you to connect with your mom,
Yeah.
and you can expound on that. But long story short, it led to this song. You were guided to listen to this song, and it's One Eskimo, and the song is amazing. And I actually looked up the lyrics before I read that you looked up the lyrics. So I
Oh,
thought that
wow.
was funny. As I was reading the story, I said, I'm going to look up the lyrics to that song. This was just a few hours ago. And then I looked up the lyrics, and then the next sentence I think was I was compelled to look up the lyrics. So I'm like, oh yeah, we're in alignment here. And I love that line as well, that one of the lines is I'm not in my skin, something like that, but I feel everything. So maybe you could talk about that whole experience a little bit. That's in the
Giving me
book.
chills
Give
again.
me, yeah.
That one, I'd always desired to feel connected to my mom, and she had transitioned in 1999, so it was a while ago. And I knew intellectually that she was around, but I wanted to feel it. And anyway, so in one of my sessions, my inner being said, we're going to give you an assignment, and we're going to invite you to start a meditation whenever, like the tomorrow or when we're not on the call, start a meditation and ask yourself, ask your mom, what does it feel like to be source energy with no physical body? And I was like, okay. And it was very specific. And so I tried to do it that night, but then nothing was really coming through. So I thought, okay, I'll just do it in the morning. And I was sitting there asking in meditation. So like normally I would do guided meditations at that point. So this was kind of new for me to just really just ask a question and listen. And, I felt good. I could feel joyful energy, but there was nothing, no message was coming through. And I kept kind of getting this little impulse to like get my phone that was laying next to me and listen to a song. And I just thought like, shh, like I'm meditating. And I just thought it just didn't make sense to me. But it kept coming. And finally I thought, okay, I don't know. I just did it. And it was this Beatles song so this was a weird, really fun multi-step thing that was very mystical. I've not often had that level of an experience, but it was super special. And this song that I was being guided to was Let It Be. And I don't listen to the Beatles. I mean, I respect them, but it's just not something I listen to. So I looked up Let It Be, and my mom's name was Mary. And so the song is about Mother Mary comes to me.
Yeah.
And so I could just feel like my body exploding with just emotion and connection with my mom. So then I listened to the song and I returned to my meditation and I asked, what mom, what does it feel like to be source energy with no physical body? And then I got this impulse to listen to another song. I was just like, what's the deal? And so I finally said, then I did it. And it was this one Eskimo song called Amazing. And I'd already listened to this song. I'd already even referenced it in the book of feeling very connected to source when I would listen to it. And I just thought this was the strangest thing to listen to songs that I already knew. It didn't really make sense to me, but I surrendered and was light about it. So I listened to it. And the opening line is, again, with this question in mind, what's it like to not have a physical body? And the opening line was, I have no skin and I feel everything. And I could not believe the specificity of that answer.
Yes.
To a song I was already listening to, but had never heard it in these terms. And I just was, and the song just kept going. And I was just crying and like, holy cow. And then it just kept going. Like, so that song was very special because there was, from now on, we will rise together as one. I mean, it just kept going. And I had all the lyrics in the book because it was uncanny. But with publishing, there's rules about publishing lyrics, even if you give credit to the author or the band. So that's why you needed to look up the lyrics, actually, because they weren't in there. And so that was the most shocking, beautiful surprise, blow me away. And it just kept going. And then it was like, search specific words on YouTube. And I'm like, and it was like flying in space or something like very specific. And so I go to YouTube and I Google it. And
so you get this, I did read that part as well. So you get then you get this message.
It kept going. Like each stage of that meditation were new steps. And I just kept following it until I knew it was complete. It was a thrilling experience to receive downloads just in receptive mode. It was a new experience for me. So that, and that was the first time that I could hear the guidance to do certain things, but then I also felt a new form of receiving that I'd never felt before. And that's what people call a download, where 1 second you don't know something, but then suddenly your operating system is updated and you know something. And I felt this knowing that song by One Eskimo I knew that the Let It Be song by Paul McCartney was just to inspire me and was a direct message. But I had this knowing that One Eskimo, that my mom had been there as non-physical inspiration to inspire them to write the song as a way to message me specifically. And that was just suddenly in my knowing. And I thought, what? And so that was thrilling and beautiful to understand too. And in my next session with KT and my inner being, I asked, like, I had this download, and is that true? And they said, why are you asking if you know it's true? I'm like, because I can. And it's fun for me to be able to have like to ask my inner being, like, will you validate this for me? And so that was that's one of my favorite experiences that I had in my 12 years of fun.
Yes, that was a really touching story in the book. And yeah, I mean, to me, it's obvious like your mother was communicating with you. And so you were close with your mom?
Oh yeah. There are people that we have in our lives that I feel like are soulmates, or there's a special connection, non-physical connection.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom and I always had that special, like I could see her gifts from probably on a divine stage or a divine level or degree. And I probably didn't know how to articulate it that way, but I just saw her value and how special she was, and just always knew that about her. And we just had a special connection.
Yeah, beautiful. Hi there, just wanted to take a quick moment to let you know about the Delicious Alignment and the Wisdom of Oprah event. Ramona Gailey and I have a date and location for our one-day workshop in the Asheville area, October 19th. The location is only 15 minutes from the Asheville airport and close to the Biltmore, Black Mountain, Chimney Rock, Lake Lure, and much, much more. About the workshop itself, Ramona Gailey receives her guides, different Oprah, to answer your questions. This is a hot seat format similar to one you would see at an Abraham Hicks workshop, but much smaller and more intimate, with ample opportunities to interact directly with Oprah and get your questions answered. And as the author of Delicious Alignment, How 25 Women Learn to Love and Transform Their Bodies Using Abraham Hicks and the Law of Attraction, I will facilitate a workshop on this day focused on self-love, body love, and appreciating our food unapologetically. Stay tuned for more details. Now back to the interview. Let's go through a couple more here. It really is a lot about fun. All of your in your instructional guide and your unicorn instructional guide. Live like you're always on vacation. Look for what's next. Trust your inner enthusiasm. Stop expecting others to know what's best for you. Let's talk about that one a little bit.
That's a good one. That's huge. We are so programmed and used to asking people, what do you think? And here's a situation, like, what's your advice? And that was one of the most liberating things that I learned was nobody has walked in your shoes, even if you've known them your entire life. Like everyone's lens is through self. And they can't answer that for you. It's liberating to really trust and tune everyone out and tune into yourself and like, well, what do I feel? Because no one else can feel your vibration and your enthusiasm. They can feel your alignment. And people will offer their opinions, and it's almost laughable. Like I would notice, people would tell me things like it is the truth. And it's like, oh, you don't want to date this person because they're this age or they're this. And they're so sure about it. And I just have to laugh like, that's fine. Like you have no idea what's right for me. Because you can't hear and feel my inner being resonating within me. Nobody could feel me recognize KT, a stranger. And in my bones, there was no even question. It was like, oh, I need to know her.
Mm-hmm.
So why should I ask my neighbor, like, should I know her? Like, how would they know?
Right. And I meant to bring this in before. I just love that you saw the back of her head, because in the book you say you all you saw was the back of her head. You didn't even see her face, and you just knew, like, energetically, I need to know this person. And I've experienced that before where, I take improv classes. I always bring that up because I love it. But when I was in the class, there were 2 or 3 people in that class that I didn't know yet, but I knew that I'm going to know them well, like as friends or in some capacity, in
Mhm.
improv capacity. I almost wanted to say to them, "Hey, how you doing? We're going to be really good friends." Like I saw into the future almost. Like the friendship was
Mhm.
already there.
Right.
So cool.
Yeah, we feel things energetically and
Yeah.
we don't even have to think about it. It's just part of our knowing. And I just want to also like emphasize, I love that you're doing improv because I can't think of a better way to be immersed in the power of now, in the magnitude of now. Like that is doing improv. And so good for you to cultivate those muscles, those vibrational muscles of being in the now and being comfortable in the now and knowing you have what you need to know in this second. And it's all being created moment by, I mean, literally moment by moment. So
Mhm.
what I can't think of anything more beautifully aligned to that, the now,
Yes.
than what you're
Yeah.
doing with your improv. So good for you.
Yeah.
That's
It's so true. It's so true. It really is helping me be in the moment and not worry about even in these interviews, like what am I going to say or am I going to know what to say or you know,
yeah.
yeah, just being in the moment. And to add, I did wind up getting to know these two guys or three guys. Yeah, like in a show capacity, in a improv capacity, like I wound up working with them closely and having this wonderful rapport with them. So it's so cool.
That is cool. And, I just thought another thing that's really beautiful, and I think it's in my instructional guide as well, is trust yourself to show up, that you will
Hmm.
show up for yourself. And you're doing that too. It's like, what a powerful exercise to be in, that you're living in the moment to trust yourself to show up and that you will be what you want to be and you'll have the outcomes you want. You're in your flow and you can apply that to every part of your life, your podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah. And what's I love about it too, which is so different than the way that I used to live, is I really don't know where any of this is going. Like I don't have an agenda. I don't have a strategy. That's very different than the way that, I used to live in terms of anything I took on. I'm just following the breadcrumbs and following what feels better.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it
Right.
be nice if they taught that to every man, woman, and child, like in school, so people could release and surrender to trusting themselves in the now, moment by moment, to show up and have the confidence that you'll know what you need to know and you can be in the flow and not
Mhm.
have to like make a list and check it and ahead of time, and that you can really trust the fullness of you to show up.
Yes. I mean, I think there are some schools that teach meditation, even here in Asheville, to young children. I'm just not in that world anymore, but I have heard about it recently in different parts of the country,
Yeah.
probably the world. So I think it's happening on some level.
Yeah.
It'll keep evolving. Yeah, let's do one more from your book, and then we want to find out how people can find you and what you're up to in terms of anything else you want to let us know about. Let's see. Live like you're always on vacation. So how does one do that, even if you're living paycheck to paycheck right now? How do you live like you're always on vacation?
I think it's a lightness to expect that and to think of yourself as, well, for example, when I had the like lightning bolt inspiration to even do the experiment, it came from Abraham Hicks. Like we're about to leave the seminar and they said, when you're on this cruise, you're at a seminar, you're away from your normal life, don't go back to your normal life and just immerse yourself in the grocery list, all your responsibilities like laundry and your kids and work. Like, yes, do those things, but have your primary focus be fun. And then all of your responsibilities and the necessities of life will more efficiently take care of themselves because you're in a receiving mode of fun. And then I just was like, wow, I got it. Have more fun. Expect to live in an attitude of fun and be light about your life. And go get yourself, like Abraham Hicks talks about, like go get a soda or whatever it is that's your fun thing where it doesn't have to be serious. And to me, I love coffee. So my favorite thing is just to get a coffee and savor it and enjoy my life and appreciate and sit in appreciation with each sip. And so you can, even if you have a busy work day, if you know that you're living what you desire and your intention is to be the fullest version of yourself, show me how to have more fun, show me how to feel like I'm more on vacation, even though what's right in front of me are deadlines and responsibilities. Like I desire to see and live the way I really want to live always, regardless of the circumstances, and feel that way. And just trusting yourself and the universe with that desire and that intention, you will get your own ideas and check in with yourself. Like, am I being light about my life? And yes, and start being appreciative of like, yes, I have this job and it might be stressful or demanding, but that's what is right now. Show me how to find the fun along the way of my workday, or laughing with my colleagues, or, just expect it. Like that's the thing about the unicorn frequency too, is expectation is huge. And I feel like when you're expecting on a unicorn level or a magic wand level or I'm audacious level, your expectation changes and it helps expand what's possible. So if you really do believe, like I may have no idea right now how my work day is going to feel like I'm on vacation, but I am wide open for the inspiration and the impulses that are going to be new, that are going to show up because I've asked for them and I'm loved dearly by the universe, and you will get ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they'll be customized to you, and maybe, you'll have better rendezvous with the people that you do have at work. And so that's my main idea, I would say, of how to integrate this desire to live like you're on vacation, but like intentionally, like what are my favorite things to do? Am I doing them? Or do I always put them on the shelf? It can be practical too. Like I'm going to go get a coffee every day. Like I would actually, when I was working in my corporate job, I noticed that it felt fun to not go from my apartment straight to the office. It felt more fun to work in 20 or 30 minutes, even though it meant getting up earlier, and stop at a coffee shop before and have a delicious, like maybe I'd have a muffin, like something yummy with my coffee. And it felt like I was on vacation, and then I got to go to work, and it was just such a fun way to move into the day. And it could be like, oh, I'm going to go on a walk at lunch, or I'm going to go, whatever it is, what your favorite things are. How can you bring those in? Expect to live those more regularly.
Yeah. Yeah. Like for me, I know that if I take a walk every day on the trail, it doesn't have to be the trail. We got to have a trail right here. It could be somewhere else, but that really lifts me up. I call it my mental health walk, I mean, it's for spiritual health, it's for everything, but it really is for mental health because it just makes me feel good. And so just looking, it could be something free. It could be something, like you said, just a cup of coffee, just writing down those things that you enjoy and then just adding more of that into your life. Fun, and just looking for opportunities for creating more fun.
And I think too, like if you feel fun, even if nothing changes in your schedule, but you are tuning in specifically to, I am an amazing person, I'm loved by the universe, and feel the joy and the beauty of your being, and let yourself be playful. So you could have a playful mindset, and that is going to match up in the universe with things that are fun and playful. So yeah, tune into yourself and choose to be playful and look at life as, I remember in my book, I wrote about being super frustrated with my partner that he would not clean up his piles of junk and mess. And it was impacting me because I like an orderly space and I want our common areas to feel beautiful. And I was just I could feel myself escalating into like my smoke coming out of my ears because I kind of had it. And the words came into my mind that I just listened to a video a couple days before, like, be light about your life. And that came into me, and I thought, oh, wow, I am not being light right now about my life. So, though that's probably an example of the beginning process of letting yourself be playful and light and noticing, like, does this feel playful to think this right now? Do I want to go down this path, or do I want to change course? And so that's another
Yeah.
little
And
practical.
it can be challenging though when you both have different ways of being in terms of the house and the home. Like my husband and I as well have different different ideas, and it's no fun getting upset, but even if you do get upset, I mean that's okay too. That's part
Yeah,
of that's the contrast. The contrast
yeah, I agree.
happens and it's not bad. It gives you clues to what you want. It's
Yeah,
useful information when you feel that.
I agree. And then if you just don't stay there and you just look at it, I think when you have a sincere desire for anything, like show me how in the world to be feel like I'm on vacation, that sincere, earnest desire will be answered in maybe small ways, but you will feel the answers come to you. So I wasn't asking in my outrage and my frustration to feel better, but then those words, my inner being fed me those words, and it just totally dissolved the situation, and I could pivot. And I was so great, I was so happy. So even when we're not asking, like, our intention of our heart for where we want our momentum to go is maybe even unspoken, but it's there and it answered.
Yes, it's always there. It's always there and working things out for our behalf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Reid, tell everyone how they can find you and all that good stuff.
So I've created a website, and it's about to launch, and it's just called theunicornfrequency.com. So people can find me in an easy way to remember. My book is available through different channels, but my favorite distribution channel is Amazon. They're the most author friendly. So you can search my name, Reid Thompson, and the title, The Unicorn Frequency, on Amazon as well. And it'll pop up, but you can also, there'll be a link as well on my website to find me. And I'll have my social media will be there as well.
I'll have those links all in your
Yeah,
website and your
perfect.
Instagram, all in the show notes, as well as the first interview I had with you, in case anyone wants to hear that, because that is, I share that one a lot with people whenever they're struggling with money or they want to manifest, like I really want to manifest a lot of money quickly or something. I'm like, you just go listen to this episode, So that'll be there as well. So thank you so much, Reid. I love your book. I love the message. It's like a meditation reading the book. Yeah.
That's great. I love getting the feedback too. And so for any of the people who have read the book or are going to read the book, I would love it if they would drop like a line or two, and I'm like as a review, and give me feedback is just a joy, would be a joy.
Yes, it is a joy to receive those reviews on Amazon. It really is. I mean, as an author, so guys, please do that because we love that. It makes us so happy. It feels so good to know, like, oh my gosh, people are getting something out of this book. It's like your baby and people are getting something
Yes.
out of it.
And it
So,
supports, and the algorithm, it supports the book itself as well. Like the algorithm of Amazon, it helps us as well.
Yes, and it's the algorithm. It helps the algorithm. So we thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Thank you so much, Reid. It's always awesome to catch up with you.
Thank you for having me. I really loved it.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. To find out more about Reid Thompson, go to theunicornfrequency.com. Make sure to get his book, which you can find on his website, or search his name on Amazon. And here are a few ways you can connect with me. You can join my Facebook group, Delicious Alignment. And if you enjoyed this content, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave a comment, or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow me on Instagram at Delicious Alignment. Well, that's it for today, my friend. See you next time.